Thank you for doing this, Scott. Are you ready to start the presentation? Good morning.
I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay, so here's...
Thanks so much for having me, and I apologize that I cannot be there in person. In the northeast of the United States, we have our third major snowstorm in just 3 weeks. However, yesterday I was trying to get to Hamburg, and somebody took a video of my effort to get to you live. Here it is. Okay, enough of that. So I spoke at Online Marketing Rockstars exactly 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we made a series of predictions, and I thought it would be fun to revisit those predictions, using it as a jumping off point to have some discussion around marketing trends, and also make some new predictions as we sit here today in March of 2018, and we call our presentation Observations of a Bystander. So first off, let's look at some of our predictions from 2016 and evaluate how we did. First prediction from the year before, Amazon will make a brick and mortar acquisition. Consumers don't live in isolation of any one medium, and if you want to be the largest retailer in the world, which is clearly Amazon's aspiration, you have to own brick and mortar stores. So I believe that we got this right, and we're giving ourselves thumbs up. So the question is, how did we know this? We got very lucky. This is us presenting at DLD regarding the acquisition of Whole Foods. This is the week before the acquisition.
Amazon will make a transformative brick and mortar acquisition in the next 12 months because...
My prediction is that Amazon will acquire an organization like a Whole Foods.
I still believe they're going to buy a Macy's or a Carol.
So that's me bragging. We got very lucky in the week before the acquisition. We predicted they would acquire Whole Foods. Amazon had not made an acquisition of greater than $1 billion, and this one was for over $13 billion. And people say, well, how did you know Amazon was going to acquire Whole Foods? And I'll let you in on a secret of how we knew Amazon was going to acquire the grocer the week before it happened. At L2, the firm I work in at NYU, we're constantly running tests against Alexa to try and understand voice. And the week before, we had an Alexa in our office, and I was barking commands at Alexa. So I asked Alexa the following.
Alexa, buy whole milk.
I couldn't find anything for whole milk, so I've added whole milk to your shopping list.
And then I asked,
Alexa, buy organic foods.
The top search result for organic food is Plum Organics baby food, banana, and pumpkin, 12-pack of 4 ounces each. It's $15 total. Would you like to buy it?
And then, as often happens in my age, I got confused and I asked Alexa the following.
Alexa, buy Whole Foods.
I have purchased the outstanding stock of Whole Foods Incorporated at $42 per share. I have charged $13.7 billion to your American Express card.
I thought that would be funnier. Anyways, Amazon is now in the position where it can go shopping on other people's credit cards. When Amazon announced it was acquiring Whole Foods, its stock market value increased by more than the acquisition price, and the value of competitors went down by more than the acquisition price. So Amazon is now in a position where it can begin financing acquisitions on other people's balance sheet. Between the time that Amazon announced and closed the acquisition of Whole Foods, the value of the largest pure-play grocer in the United States, Kroger, declined by 1/3. We now have a company that can perform Jedi mind tricks and begin inflicting pain on other consumer brands just by thinking ill of the other firm. Think about this. Amazon could likely take the value of any consumer stock in Europe or the US down by 30%, in 30 days with 30 press releases. We've never seen a company this dominant in terms of its ability to disrupt other sectors before it even is in those sectors. Nike announces that they're going to begin distributing on Amazon. Their stock goes up, and every other footwear company goes down. Amazon is now in a position where they're one of the largest media companies in retail. This graph shows that Amazon and Walmart now account for the majority of digital marketing impressions in the world of retail. That's right, there are more digital advertisements now on Amazon and Walmart than all other e-tailers combined in the world of online retailer. As we see, their share is dominant in what is the most exciting and most highly valued channel in the world. That's e-commerce. In the US, they're approaching 50% of all transactions online. In Germany, 40%. Probably within 24 months, the majority of online purchases in Germany will be made through one retailer, and that retailer is the Seattle behemoth. Zalando is a fantastic company doing very well. The question is, and this is a big notion for, or a big question for society, is can any other retailer survive with Amazon out there? So effectively right now, Zalando is trading at an even more expensive multiple than Amazon when we look at its multiple of profits. The problem is Amazon is beginning its invasion of Europe. This is the number of distribution centers in 2010 in Europe. Now let's fast forward to today. As you can see, Amazon is accessing their almost near zero cost of capital, or their infinitely cheap capital, and using it to build out an incredibly expensive aspect of retail. And that is the ability to get 60% of European population, about 70 to 80% of everything they buy, within 48 hours for free via their recurring revenue membership program called Prime. Most board of directors want retail CEOs to find ways to build competitive advantage that's the greatest at the lowest capital expenditure. Amazon has flipped that on its head, and when they decide to build competitive advantage, they want to find the most expensive way possible because it makes it more difficult for everybody else to compete. So some predictions for 2018 regarding Amazon. We believe Amazon will likely make another brick and mortar acquisition, and there's a decent chance it will make one in Europe. Our best guess in the US is Nordstrom. However, in Europe, we think Carrefour is a target because of their large distribution and the fact that to have a recurring revenue relationship with the consumer, you have to get to them through their stomach, or specifically the refrigerator or grocery. We also believe this will be the year that Amazon gets distribution from some luxury brands who have been notable holdouts as they all become more and more desperate to find new channels of growth as department stores continue to be in structural decline. There will likely be other marketplaces that will emerge. However, most of them will fail as they underestimate the cost of customer acquisition in a world where Amazon continues to bid up the price to acquire consumers and the cost of Google key terms. And unfortunately, over the next 12 months, we think Zalando is likely to feel the same pressure as every other retailer. And this is a key question that we have to ask ourselves as citizens. Are we comfortable with one e-commerce retailer? Because right now, that is where we are headed. A prediction from 2016. We said 2 years ago that Snapchat would begin to struggle and go into decline. I think we got this right. So we were all hoping that Snap would break the duopoly of Facebook and Google. The ecosystem needs a third player, and we were hoping Snap would be the Facebook of video. Unfortunately, the Facebook of video is Facebook, or specifically Instagram stories. Even as Snap gained momentum in 2016, as you see here, advertisers were increasing their presence on Snapchat. By 2017, we saw fashion began to decrease its presence on Snapchat. That's right, you're seeing fashion brands who oftentimes are a bellwether for what's coming in the consumer world actually decrease their spending on the visual platform Snap. In addition, Facebook has adopted a strategy of taking every single feature of Snap and incorporating it into their own apps, even where it doesn't make sense. I think there's a decent chance that the next product Facebook launches, they're just going to go ahead and call Snap. At the same time, Instagram advertising has never been stronger. We believe that Instagram is now the most powerful platform in the world. And while it doesn't have nearly the revenue of the core Facebook platform, it garners much greater engagement. People are 10 times as likely to like, comment, or share a piece of content on Instagram as they are on Facebook, and 40 times more likely to comment, share, or like a piece of content on Instagram than they are on Twitter. We think bots were overrated and are largely going away. The big talk of 2017 bots appears to have been overhyped. There will be bot-like artificial intelligence, mostly for customer service, as we've seen from Starbucks and some other retailers. Some more predictions for 2018. Snapchat takes the same route as Twitter. We believe that Snapchat is now officially in structural decline. Facebook Messenger bots are likely going away. We also believe that Facebook Messenger for kids will be discontinued because of the controversy surrounding Facebook. We believe for Facebook to release a gateway drug for children was a tone-deaf move and a mistake which they will regret, and ultimately they will shut down the platform. There are very few parents who feel their kids are better off having access to social media earlier than later. We're also continuing to see the decline of the advertising industrial complex. Brands are built in one of three ways: either pre-purchase, at the point of purchase, and then post-purchase with customer service and warranties. The pre-purchase weapons of advertising, public relations, and online marketing are dulling. They're getting weaker and weaker, which means that the store is actually becoming more valuable as a point of building brands and relationships with the consumer. The death of store, or the rumor of death of store, has been greatly exaggerated, and we're going to see a lot of manufacturers' brands ranging from Amazon, Nike, Rolex, and Samsung begin to forward integrate and purchase retailers who are trading at historic lows. We made a prediction in 2016 that traditional television networks would begin their structural decline, and I believe we got that right as well. If you look at the price of cable television, it has grown faster than inflation, healthcare, and even education. And in some, it hasn't changed very much. So enter the destruction of cable television. Or simply put, linear TV is now officially in structural decline, and here you see that people are beginning to cut cords. In the US, within 18 months, more people will have a cable pipe of stuff into their house called Amazon Prime than will have cable television. Why? People have decided and realized that advertising sucks, and they are opting out of advertising. Specifically, they're opting out of advertising-supported media. The Olympics had their lowest viewership in 30 years, down 27% since the 2010 Olympics. The Academy Awards, a big event here in the US, continue to decline, off 40%, almost cut in half just in the last 4 years. Why? People have decided they like storytelling without the interruption, and they're moving from ad-supported media to Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. This is the beginning of the end of the advertising industrial complex and ad-supported media. The reliance on traditional media still holds stronger in Europe. Europe is more concentrated in terms of media, and these companies have more power. So the decline has not been as precipitous in the US, but I would argue you're just 3 to 5 years behind us, and we'll begin to see viewership fall off the face of a cliff. And again, we're going to see a reallocation of capital out of audience or traffic-driven ad-supported media to media that is subscription-based and has built an audience. We're seeing incredible rise in video on demand in Germany. Some predictions for 2018. After years of hanging on, we're going to begin to see television advertising begin to decline 3 to 5%, and it will start to hit Europe in approximately 2 to 3 years. Any brand, whether it's CPG or an advertising-driven company or brand that is dependent upon the advertising industrial complex, and that it builds the majority of those intangible associations of the brand in traditional advertising, will also go into structural decline. The traditional means of building a brand has passed, the sun has passed midday, and there's a reallocation of capital out of traditional marketing into more innovation-based marketing, whether it's the product itself, the way it's purchased, or how to build a community. The traditional algorithm for building value in the consumer world post-World War II until the introduction of Google was to take a mediocre shoe, a mediocre beer, a mediocre sugary drink, and wrap associations of youth, patriotism, young, masculinity, and then stuff it into the channel and sell it at an irrational margin. The new algorithm for value is to find a product that ages in reverse, that the more people who use it, the better it gets. Every time you search on Google, it gets 1/3 billionth better for the next person who searches. Every time you open Waze on your phone, the algorithm gets informed by a ping to the GPS, and the routing gets better for everybody else. 9 of the 13 best performing companies in the S&P 500 all have this reverse aging component. This just isn't the feature or the attribute of new economy companies. Firms ranging from Starbucks to Under Armour are trying to build in communities that age in reverse, where the more people use their Starbucks payment plan, the more people that use loyalty programs, the more people that write customer reviews on Amazon, the better or the younger the product gets for the next consumer. Prediction: the biggest technology, the biggest shift over the next 10 years will be that the baton has been passed from the most disruptive device in the history of technology, the iPhone, which reallocated several $1 trillion in value. The baton has been passed to the new technology that will disrupt industries and reallocate trillions of dollars in stakeholder value. And simply put, in one word, that is voice. Some technologies that have been overhyped. Virtual reality is an enormous disappointment. The Internet of Things makes absolutely no sense. Wearables, people do not want to wear technology. 3D printing is ridiculous. The notion that we could have really cheap things, high quality, made for us right away, great quality products, inexpensively sent to us. Well, here's the thing. Europe and the US have an incredible 3D printer called China. However, the technology that is going to take off and change the world, we believe, is voice. Right now, people are using voice for things such as music and simple questions, but over time, we're going to see it start to penetrate the world of retail. It's only a matter of time before it begins impacting brands. Keep in mind, in voice, you do not have sight. So when you ask Alexa to buy batteries or put batteries in your cart, Alexa only has one idea, and that's the private label brand from Amazon, despite the fact that on the platform, there are several battery brands. It appears that Alexa has selective memory when it comes to voice. Some predictions for 2018. Voice becomes the new operating system for our homes. The reason why this is so important is many or most of your purchase decisions are actually made in the home. And it's the only place where you do not have this attached to your body. So what easier way to do your computing than voice? 1/3 of all computing will be via voice within the next 2 years, and one company owns 2/3 of voice, Amazon. Another prediction, everyone bulks up. Because of the fear of the growing monopoly power of big tech, firms are consolidating to try and push back and also to cut costs. We're seeing some very unusual or strange bedfellows, whether it's IKEA purchasing TaskRabbit, Ocado and Casino. We're going to see more mergers and acquisitions over the next several years than we've seen in the last decade. The merger that we believe is transformative here is Disney acquiring the assets of 20th Century Fox. We believe Disney is likely the first old media company that could actually challenge Netflix or Amazon, and believe Disney is in a position to offer a Prime-like offering that includes a fat bundle of sports, a fat bundle of kids content and programming, and then in exchange for a monthly fee, access or special access to Disney cruises and Disney parks. Disney is really the only old economy firm right now in a position to push back on Netflix and Amazon. We've also seen Amazon disrupt traditional retailers and force other firms to begin thinking about strange partnerships. In the US, we saw an insurance firm and a large drugstore retailer merge in order to stave off Amazon's recent entry into the healthcare business. So some more predictions for 2018. There's a lot more mergers and acquisitions to come. There will be one secondary marketplace will emerge. It could be a Zalando that takes on Amazon at the high end of the market. The only place Amazon is not dominant in its marketplace is with aspirational brands, where consumers still do not trust the platform and brands are rightfully wary of distributing on Amazon. The good news about Amazon being so dominant is for the first time, other partners are becoming better partners. It has never been a better time to approach Google or specifically Alibaba about partnering, as they too feel very threatened by the Seattle firm. Prediction: the call to break up big tech really gains momentum. In 2006, the largest, most valuable firms in the world were a mix of petroleum, financial services, and technology companies. Now today, all of the most valuable firms are all big tech. Their wealth creation has been unprecedented. At the end of the Great Recession, Amazon or the big tech firms combined had a market capitalization equal to the GDP of Poland or Niger. Today, as we stand here now, the combined market capitalization of these companies is greater than the GDP of every nation with the exception of 4, China, Japan, Germany, and the US. Think about it. These companies are likely more influential and dominant than any entities in history, maybe with the exception of the US and China. So what do we believe? We believe the time has come to seriously evaluate breaking up big tech. Why? There are some emotional arguments, and then we believe there are some more substantive arguments. But let's take you through some of the more emotional arguments around why we should break up big tech. The first is because they're evil. What we've seen is that fake news is basically powered by social media. Fake news sites get almost half their traffic from social media, whereas legitimate news sites only get about 10% of their traffic from social media. So social media is the oxygen or the fuel of fake news, if you will. I'm just going to let this picture speak for itself, but what we're discovering very painfully is that these platforms can be weaponized by foreign actors. We're learning this the hard way. America is so proud of Facebook, and the most innovative thing in 2016 was not the Echo, was not the Apple Watch. The most innovative thing in 2016 was Russia building a Trojan horse that we paid for and then having it detonate in our own face. Now, initially, Facebook's response to the notion that their platform had been weaponized, their initial response was that that notion was crazy. Then it ended up, it was millions of people who saw these ads, and now we're finding out it was hundreds of millions. Every day, the weaponization of these platforms appears to get worse and worse. Facebook has refused to acknowledge they are a media firm. They have embraced the margins, the celebrity, and the influence of a media firm, yet they seem to be allergic to the responsibilities of a media firm. An analogy would be if McDonald's was serving 80% fake beef the week before an important election, and we were getting sick, we were getting encephalitis from this fake beef, and we were making bad decisions because we were sick and ill. And we went to McDonald's and said, we're angry that you're serving fake beef and that we're getting sick and making bad decisions. And McDonald's said, whoa, hold on. It's not our fault. We're not a fast food restaurant. We're a fast food platform. There has never been a firm in the history of mankind that is more of a media firm than Facebook. And for them not to acknowledge this is irresponsible. So at conferences like this, when you hear representatives of big tech speak, oftentimes they don't mean exactly what they're saying. So I'm going to give you some quick definitions. When somebody from big tech uses the term platform, what they really mean is that they're a media company but want to operate in a netherland of unprecedented multiples and no accountability. When someone from big tech starts saying it would be impossible for us to screen content, or that we don't want to be arbiters of truth, or we believe in free speech, what they really mean to be saying is that they refuse to do anything that would make them less profitable. When we talk about innovation at these conferences, oftentimes what we really mean is elegant theft. Theft of our data, theft of people's time such that they can work for wages that are lower than minimum wage, such as with the 2.1 Uber driver partners, or stealing other people's data and privacy such that a company can then sell it to agencies or actors that we have not approved of. The most recent one from big tech and Facebook is they claim they want to give voice to the unheard. They don't want to reduce their advertising. They don't want to reduce their users, even if their users are using the platform for bad activity, because they want to give voice to the unheard. What they mean here is we know we're wrong and have no intention of doing anything about it. And the most recent one is we must do better. We need to do better. That, again, is them saying we know we're wrong and have no intention of doing anything about it. Most recently, 50 million users had their data taken by an agency they had never heard of, because a professor in the UK was able to download just 250,000 profiles via a quiz, and Facebook did not put in place the safeguards to ensure that the data wasn't taken from 50 million people. I believe these firms wrap themselves in a very progressive blanket. I believe they are a sheep. They are a wolf in sheep's clothing. And they talk about leaning in, and they talk about their progressive values. And all of this is to mask that during the day, they act more like Darth Vader and Ayn Rand. They might be liberal politically, but be clear, these are the most dominant, rapacious, aggressive firms in history. So whose fault is this? I would argue this is our fault. It's the man in the mirror. We are not electing officials to hold these firms accountable. When Facebook says to the EU to try and get their acquisition of WhatsApp passed, they say, it would be literally impossible for us to share the data between the core platform and WhatsApp. The EU was very worried about having all this data in the hands of one company, and Facebook assured them that it would be impossible for them to share the data between WhatsApp and the core platform, and the acquisition was approved by the EU Commission on Competitiveness. Spoiler alert, 90 days after the acquisition closed, Facebook figured it out and began sharing data between the platforms. And the EU felt lied to and said, we're angry, Facebook. We're going to fine you $122 million. $122 million. This is equivalent to 0.6% of the $16 or $19 billion acquisition price. So if you were parking your car and the car costs $100 every 15 minutes at the meter, but the parking ticket was only 25 cents, what would you do? We are telling these firms vis-a-vis our elected officials that the smart shareholder thing to do, the shareholder-driven thing to do, is to lie to us and to break the law. It is our fault we are not electing representatives to hold these firms to the same scrutiny and standards that we hold the rest of corporate Germany and corporate America. So why are we so angry? The worm has turned against big tech. And it's a fair question to ask when these firms could do no wrong just 12 months ago, and now we're angry at everything we do. What is going on? And I think there's a bigger story here. Specifically, we have come to expect that technology plays a larger role in the betterment of humanity. And you can understand why. 1942, 100,000 of the best and brightest get together and decide they're going to enter a foot race to try and save the world and get to split the atom first. And technology and some very bright people literally saved the world. We then got the band back together again 25 years. British, Canadian, Americans, and some German scientists, and said, we're going to accomplish the impossible. And using technology that included chalk and chalkboards and abacuses, we're going to put a man on the moon. We're going to send a man into the atmosphere, land him on the moon, and bring them home safely. Still likely the most impressive feat, given at the time in the US, a third of households did not even have indoor plumbing. Now we have 700,000 of the best and brightest. These firms draw talent from the four corners of the earth. They are the best and brightest. They are working with lasers compared to the slingshots and the squirt guns of the NASA and Manhattan projects. And what have they been brought together to do? What is their collective goal? Is it to solve world hunger? Is it to bring us together as a people? No, after studying these companies for 10 years and working with them, I'm here to tell you that their collective mission of the greatest concentration of human, financial, and creative capital has been brought together with one sole mission. And that mission is to sell another Nissan. And I think we are very disappointed. They avoid taxes. This is Tim Cook testifying before the U.S. Congress.
We not only comply with the laws, but we comply with the spirit of the laws.
No, not really. This is Apple's headquarters in California. This is their headquarters in Europe, where they have parked more cash than the GDP of Norway, such that they can pay an effective tax rate of 4%. What is your tax rate? Amazon is about to become the most valuable company in the world, and in 2017 effectively paid no tax. What does it mean when the world's most valuable, successful companies don't pay taxes? It means less successful companies have to pay more taxes. We have institutionalized a regressive corporate tax structure. Alexa, is this a good thing? In the last 3 months, Amazon has added the value of Walmart to its market capitalization, despite the fact that Amazon has paid $1.4 billion in taxes in the last 10 years, and Walmart has paid $64 billion. They destroy jobs. Facebook and Google will add $24 billion to their top-line revenue just this year alone, and they'll need to hire 26,000 people. $24 billion will come out of the media ecosystem, as this is now a zero-sum game, resulting in a net job loss of creative directors, agency planners, and copywriters of over 200,000 people. That means on every January 1st, you could fill up the I don't even know how to pronounce this, the stadium in Hamburg. You could fill it up 3.5 times with people from the media industry and issue them their pink slips courtesy of Facebook and Google. However, we need job destroyers. Everybody in this room tries to avoid taxes. We need innovators. The reason we break these guys up is not because they're evil or because they avoid taxes, but because we're capitalists. And key to capitalism is that you have private property, wage labor, and most importantly, competitive markets, and the markets are no longer competitive. Google no longer takes us to the best place. It takes us to the place that they can further monetize. Amazon announces it's had its best year ever, and every other company declines in value. Big companies are being prematurely euthanized, and small companies are no longer able to get out of the crib. Here in the US, we have acquiesced our government to Amazon and said if they locate their headquarters in certain cities, we'll give them taxation authority. Amazon claims they're only 4% of retail, and that is a number. However, they're 4% or they're 18% of all music streaming in Germany. They're 24% of all retail growth in the US, a third of all cloud revenue, 40% of all German e-commerce sales, 44% of US e-commerce sales, 47%. They're almost half of all streaming video in Germany. They're 55% of Black Friday sales. 2/3 of households in the US have Amazon Prime now, 70% share of voice, and 82% of wealthy households in the US have a recurring revenue relationship with Amazon called Prime. This is the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee several weeks ago, basically saying that Facebook, Twitter, and Google were our front lines of defense. Well, I'm here to tell you we should not be comfortable with these firms as our front lines of defense. This is who our front lines of defense are. Our front lines of defense are the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the fine young men and women of the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines, not the Zuck. We need to get rid of the macho test. People think that regulation equals socialism. It does not.
He's a socialist?
Regulation is a natural part of the economic cycle. If the Department of Justice hadn't moved in on Microsoft, Google would have never gotten out of the crib. The object of every innovator's affection, Google, would not have survived if we had not told Microsoft to stop killing small companies in the crib. We are at that same moment again where 4 companies have become too powerful. Some final words. What is the purpose of an economy? An economy's purpose is to create a middle class, and our middle class in Europe and the US is struggling. Why? It's impossible not to notice that the rise of big tech correlates to the decline in middle class wages. The greatest source of good, in my view, the European and US middle class, is struggling. And we see all kinds of data. It will not be easy to break up these companies. I apologize, I'm going so fast, but I'm running out of time. They have full-time lobbyists. They buy media companies to, again, wrap themselves in sheep's clothing. I believe every business issue can be solved with an episode of Star Wars. So I urge you to listen to Darth Vader.
Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
So search your feelings, you know this to be true. Search your feelings. Are we better off with Amazon, Apple, and Facebook, and Google? Are we better off in an ecosystem that has Amazon, AWS, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, Google Cloud, Google, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Messenger? Where would we have more innovation, more job growth, a broader tax base, more M&A, more venture capital, maybe fewer billionaires, but more millionaires? Trust your feelings. You know this to be true. Some conclusions. For managers, questions I would be asking. What is your plan to maintain brand equity in a world where traditional pre-purchase marketing is losing its effectiveness? How will you respond to Amazon or Google when they come into your sector with cheap capital, or what I refer to as 38 gallons of gasoline? What is not only the ROI of voice, but what is the COI, the cost of ignoring? How are you creating a story that gives you access to cheap capital such that you can compete with big tech? And is your firm perceived by young people as an accelerant? Young people want to go to work for a company where they can advance the fastest, and the team with the best players wins. How is your firm perceived as an accelerant for young people's careers? Predictions. We have unfettered growth of big tech that is unchecked, and a lack of regulation that is resulting in a market consolidation of a few companies. Power corrupts. In the US, we are seeing an inability to push back on big tech. We need a D-Day from Europe. We need Europe to do what we have been unable to do, and that is push back on companies that have become corrupt and are starting to seriously erode the middle class and our basic freedoms. Europe and Hamburg, we need you. That's all I have. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your patience. Warm regards from New York.